oh, Dougie just got a new big brother, and he is pretty awesome, and I've already pre-ordered it. So it's a little more expensive than I thought it was going to be, but it has way more features than I thought it was going to have. So let's talk about it. So of course, Sony did not send me a ZV-E1 ZV-E1 pre-release because I only have like 30,000 subscribers and I'm kind of annoying. Why would they do that? But I am very well versed with the ZV-E10 and other Sony cameras, full frame, A7 IV, I got an FX30, ZV-1F, ZV-1. So what I can tell you is what I like about this new ZV-1 camera and why I think it is still a good value, even though it is $2,200 American. So I'll just quickly mention some of the standout features that make the camera so great, and then I'll talk about some drawbacks towards the end there. But of course, you got I'm looking at my iPad. I wrote down notes because I'm a professional. You have the A7S III sensor, of course, which is going to give you an amazing image. It's also going to be ridiculous in low light because you have that 2 base ISOs in, if you're in S-Log3, of 800 and 12,800. So you can vlog because they're talking about this as a vlogging camera. I do wish Sony would switch the vlog the vlog title to content creation. The content creator camera. Plus that'd be CC, like the initials of my channel, Camera Crisis, and we could be tied in even more. But I think this is an absolutely amazing content creation camera, or vlog camera, Sony, if you want it. To have that A7S III sensor with that low light capability, and also you're going to get 4K 60 with no crop, no pixel binning, no line skipping, and they will be introducing the 4K 120 in June. I believe that is coming, the 4K 120 with an update, which is concerning because I want to see the 4K 120 tested. I mean, I pre-ordered it anyway, but I would like to see that in action. I can't imagine it would be any different than the A7S III or the FX3, but we still don't know for sure. It's possible that 4K 120 is going to have a lot of problems with overheating because this camera is not as good with the overheating as an FX3 or an A7S III. We'll get to that when I talk about the drawbacks. But you have 15 plus stops of dynamic range with that sensor, and that A7S III, FX3 sensor, that is one of the gold standards when it comes to actually making content, especially online content. It is such an amazing sensor to have that image quality at $2,200. That's pretty great. But it's not just the image quality. It has updated autofocus. I love the autofocus in all of the Sony cameras, but this new ZV-1 has the A7R5 autofocus with tracking, with that wonderful tracking and recognition. It will also track separately. It will track animals, birds, even though I think birds are an animal anyway. They do have them separate. Animals, birds, people are also animals, insects, planes, cars, many different things that it will be able to track autofocusly. It's got that variable shutter, so if you have flickering lights, you can dial in the variable shutter. It actually also has an automatic mode called the TV mode, anti-flicker TV screen it's actually called, and you can just point the camera at the screen that is flickering and it will automatically set the shutter speed for you to get rid of that flicker. It's got that wonderful focus breathing compensation, which is so great. You want to use lenses like G-Master lenses, things like that. A lot of those have pretty big focus breathing. Get that focus breathing compensation on the ZV-E1. You can import LUTs, and that is a big deal if you are using S-Log3 footage to be able to have your LUT looking at you so that you can see exactly how the image is going to look. That is so helpful when you're shooting out in the field instead of seeing that gray, hazy screen of an S-Log3. The streaming capabilities, it can do 4K 30 streaming. Now that will overheat after a while. If you're going to do a long streaming session, if you're going over 30 minutes in streaming, I would go down to the 1080 because the 1080, it won't overheat when it's streaming. So streamers, this is going to be a very popular camera with streamers who are streaming at 1080, get that wonderful image quality. We just plug and play, no software, no drivers needed. Also webcam. This could be a fantastic webcam for people. It's going to have amazing rolling shutter performance. A lot of people complain about the rolling shutter on Sony cameras, but the A7S III and FX3, no one complains about their rolling shutter because it's great. And now that same capability is on the little ZV-E1. You can register faces with the autofocus tracking so that it will just stay on one face no matter which other faces enter the frame and go closer or back. If you're filming a bride at a wedding, let's say, just stick on her egotistical face, and then the groom, who means nothing on his wedding day. He'll stay blurry. Although there is a mode, if you use the Intelligent Auto mode, where all of the faces can stay in focus in the frame, and as more faces come in, they will be in focus. And that's kind of cool if you just, want to do some quick vlogs, like say you're at a convention and you got a bunch of people, a Sony convention that they invite other people to, not me. And you have all those people in the background, they're Make Art Now and Potato Jet and iPhonedo. You could just hold up the thing and then everybody's face is in focus at that wonderful convention that they're all at, but not me. Of course, it's got the new Sony menus with all these touch and swipe functions, and I always love the new Sony menus anyway, and to add more of the swiping up and get the quick menus, swipe to the left and right, get other quick menus, I think that's great. And you can also manipulate things like the shutter speed right from the screen the way you can on Canon cameras. Finally, that is in Sony cameras. I love that so much. Got that big Z battery, which is going to last a long time. Have it on the A7 IV and the FX30. I love that. I'm never worried about the battery. I use one battery basically all day. It's going to have the product showcase mode, which is more practical than you think, especially if you're showcasing the products, you hold something up, boom, and it'll take off the eye autofocus. See, right now, if I just hold my fingers up to the A7 IV, it's going to stay on my eyes, which is great because that's what I want. However, if I wanted to show you my fingers, look at this. I got a manicure, I should be holding an object, then it would focus right on my fingers right now, and then it will go right back to my gorgeous face. It's got that really good mic that's on the ZV-E1, which is actually quite usable, especially when it comes with that little Don King wig, that little furry windscreen right there. Then that really will help you with the wind noise, and it's quite a clear mic. And the ZV-E1 has tricks up its sleeve in that it has a dynamic mode, which if you're behind the camera, then it can hear your voice. If you're in front of the camera, it will prioritize that voice. And that's really good because, a lot of people are going to be using this camera, running and gunning, as the kids like to say. Now, while the ZV-E1 doesn't have actual IBIS, they took out the IBIS, keep the cost down. But here's the thing, it has a digital stabilization, which I think is not bad on the Sony cameras anyway, but now they have a dynamic image stabilization called dynamic active stabilization, which will crop in even more on your sensor, and then it uses all the gyro data stuff that it records to really smooth out your footage. And Gerald Undone, and I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's pretty clever. They said Gerald Undone says it's the best stability he's ever used in a camera. But of course, it does record the gyro data, so you can leave all of that alone and then just do your 10% crop in on Catalyst Browse that I like to do, and then you're going to get gimbal-like footage without a gimbal. Love the gyro data. But it also uses all those crops and gyro data to do things like auto framing and framing stabilizer. So with framing stabilizer, you can just put something in the center and then just track it around like you're on a gimbal, or you can pick a point and do it that way. And with auto framing, it's AI based. You can just track yourself, move around the frame, and it's like you have a cameraman following you around. Now, I would like to test this out because it is going to crop in, and I'd like to see with the shutter, if there's any stuttering with the shutter, if you need to up your shutter speed at all, things like that. These are things I will be testing when I do get the camera. But this is still very exciting technology. Of course, it's going to be a vertical video beast where, you'll do the vertical video for the TikToking and the booty popping, and you won't have to rotate in post. It will just come out vertical video. It's going to be super small and lightweight, which is great for people running on gimbals or people who just want a smaller, lightweight camera. It's going to have all those helpful features for the new people, the background defocus, things like that. So man, oh man, they packed a lot of goodness into this camera for $2,200. So what do I feel are the drawbacks? Well, the first thing is what I mentioned before in a video I published about my concern about this, and that is it's a 12 megapixel sensor. And while that is fantastic for the low light, and it will also enable you to get the 4K 120, when it's doing all this cropping in, for the different stabilization modes, or if you want to use APS-C lenses and you want to use the clear image zoom, then you're zooming in on what is no longer 4K now. The sensor doesn't have enough megapixels once you start cropping and zooming in, so you're no longer in 4K. So when I saw some of the auto framing AI mode where it crops in and follows people around, like on DP Review and also Jason Herman's video, I thought it looked a little bit crunchy when it was zoomed all the way in, which makes sense because it's a digital zoom. You're losing resolution. Clear image zoom does a great job, but you can still see that it is starting to look more like iPhone footage, in my opinion, all digitally and crunchy. So that's something I'm going to have to test out to see if that's actually a usable feature, in my opinion. It's got the one card slot, so I don't think you can use this professionally for anything, unless, of course, you are using a Ninja 5 recorder or another type of recorder. Record internally to the camera and then record externally as well. Have some redundant recording, because you can't just have one copy. If it's somebody's special day, you know, their panda is getting married at the zoo, you only have one chance at that. It's got the micro HDMI port, which I expected, but I really don't like. I mean, a lot of people are going to want to use external monitors with this. The micro HDMI port should be a thing of the past. They break really easily. The ZV-E1 won't have the same thermal management as the FX3 or even the A7S3, so if you're going to do longer shoots or you are in warm environments, you should think twice about getting this camera. So if you're shooting, you know, at 20 degrees Celsius, 24 degrees Celsius for periods of time that are not more than, say, an hour or two, if you're in 4K 24, then you're probably gonna be okay with the screen open. But if it's gonna be 35 degrees, and this is not the camera for you. And speaking of the overheating, since we haven't tested the 4K 120 yet, we're gonna have to see how that goes. In truth, I certainly don't use 4K 120 for more than a few minutes, so I doubt it will be a problem for me. The camera is also not weather sealed. It is dust and moisture resistant, but it is not weather sealed, which is too bad, but to be expected when you have all these features at this price point. Now, the LCD screen is 1.04 million dots. I think that is a mistake. I know they're trying to keep the cost down, but at 1.04 million dots, you have no EVF. I think you got to rely, the screen on the FX30 is great, and it is really nice to see. The screen on this guy is less than 1 million dots on the ZV-E10, and it's a real pain in the butt. It's really hard to see what you're filming out in the sunshine. So I actually bought one of these little LCD viewfinders, which helps me when it's bright outside. So I'll probably have to use this on the ZV-E1 as well at times. So is it perfect? No, of course not. But at $2,200 US, they are packing a great deal of features into a camera. And for people creating content, so people like me, people who are trying to do YouTube and stuff, this could be an amazing setup. You have a little ZV-E10 as your B camera over here, and then you can have a ZV-E1 with A7S3 quality just coming at your face right there. So if you're in a lower stakes environment, you don't need the 2 card slots. You're somebody like me where if you screw it up and you get a corrupt SD card, it's just your own footage. You can redo the thing. Then, I mean, this has such a value proposition, and where they priced it a little bit below the A7 IV, but all of these new features and much less than the FX3, which is probably its main competitor, really, at least in the Sony lineup. All I know is I'm really excited about the camera. Can't wait to test it out. I bought it with my own wife's hard-earned money, and it's gonna come in the mail any day now. Just keep watching. Every single day, I'll make videos as we count down to the newest family member for little Dougie. So let me know down below what you think of this camera and what you'd like to see me test from this camera as well. Do you think it's gonna be a bust? I certainly think they're gonna sell a lot of these little ZV-E1 cameras. Well, they already sold one to me. Anyway, we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for watching. Okay, bye-bye.